Welcome to this week's episode of Listen to Your Coaches. I'm your coach, Mike Wilkins, here with Coach Will Morrill. This week, we're going to talk about who do you root for? Will, who do you root for?
That's a good question. So there's a lot of criteria that goes into this. And, even within this criteria, sometimes, I'll bounce around between it. So I might tell you, like, this is my first criteria, but sometimes that's not always exactly what makes it happen.
Exactly. So what I would say is, like, I'm going to have levels of criteria.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, if you are a level 1, you can be passed by a level 2. But a level 3 will never get to a level 1. If you're a level 2, sometimes a level 3 will switch you up. There's always a chance that 1 gets climbed, right? But these are some pretty standard levels that I think I got in the back of my head here, especially kind of like just coming off of like practicing it in a way. So this past weekend was the NCAA Wrestling Championships. So a whole lot of wrestling, a whole lot of different individuals from, different schools, different styles of wrestling, things of that nature. So a lot of putting the practice of who do you root for?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the way that you said that, kind of like those levels, because that's basically what I was getting at.
They're like
there. A loose
Venn
ladder.
diagram type things. Yeah. It's like sometimes, there's a little overlap.
All right, so starting at the top, like this is
Number
one.
Number one.
If I'm looking at a fight and I maybe don't know who
Right.
these guys are,
Now,
that's different too.
Mine carries. Mine carries through sport. Doesn't matter what sport it is. My criteria is the same. It could be football, baseball, basketball, MMA, wrestling, jiu-jitsu. I have a criteria, and it's who I root for.
I haven't thought about this in other sports, but I don't really watch other sports,
So it doesn't really matter.
yeah, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, mine definitely applies throughout combat sports for sure. Probably in other sports, I guess. But I would say for me, top priority is going to be body type, size, and style.
Yeah.
Like that for me is just like the number one. So
Okay.
like for me, if I'm watching, let's say that you and I just threw on some fights right now,
Right.
right? We're watching MMA fights and there's a welterweight fight going on. I'm like, interesting. This would be my weight class if I was an MMA fighter.
Yeah.
And there's one dude who, looks like Carlos Condit, and then there's another guy who's just like hammer wrestler. He's like 5'6", just jacked out of his mind. If I know nothing else about them, the one who's built like Carlos Condit is the one I'm rooting for, because guess what? That's me.
That's your level 1.
That's my level 1. Body,
Okay.
like type, size, and style. So the skinny guys, I'm automatically like rooting for. If they're strikers, if they're kind of like loose and long the way I am, maybe a little overly aggressive at times, getting out of position. Like, dude, you're my guy.
Yeah. All right. I dig it. All right. My level 1 is, do I personally know you? If I personally know you, I'm rooting for you over anybody you're going against. This has cost me money. This is why I'm not good at gambling on MMA, because like I might feel a certain way, but like it even gets to the point where like, all right, for example, I might be betting on a fighter who I don't personally know, but somebody I personally know is friends with that person. Therefore, I want that person to win. Therefore, I'm like, well, I can't bet against them because it's bad like vibes, So do I personally know you? If I personally know you, I'm gonna be rooting for you.
Man, I didn't even think about that. That might be my number 1.
Yeah,
too.
like your level 1, I don't know where it is on mine, but I think it's like probably below 5.
See, it's interesting because I thought you were gonna say weight class first. I thought because like you're like, oh, lightweights, about these guys, you know what I mean? But like,
yeah, but they're competing against other
exactly.
lightweights.
Yeah. So that makes total sense then. And I didn't even think about that, but yeah, that totally like. That might be my number 1 too. If I know someone, like, yeah, of course I
Right?
want that kind of
Yeah.
weight.
You know what I mean?
Or
like,
even like know someone who knows, like.
yeah. Like for example, knowing someone who knows someone, like let's say for example, there's a Mat Factory fighter fighting that I have not met.
Right.
Well, I'm rooting for you.
100%.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because I know somebody. So I root for somebody who roots for you. So by default, you fall into my level 1.
Exactly.
My
dude.
level 1.
I love that. I'm changing mine. I'm with you.
All right, so we match on the level 1. So I'll lead us on level 2. My level 2, and I guess this kind of touched on level 1, which is where we get some overlap here. But my level 2 is, are you coached by somebody I know? Right? So for example,
Man.
right, like Oh, is that my level
See,
two?
because I was about to agree with you, but then I thought of
That's
some
not my level two.
examples. Yeah.
My level two is, are you from where I'm from? For example, so I'm going to use
Interesting.
wrestling on this, right? So if I were to use wrestling, right? Like if I personally know you, right? Obviously I'm rooting for you. And I think honestly, probably all of us agree that's our level one,
Yeah.
right? Like who's disagreeing with that? I can't see it. But my level two is like, all right, so when I'm watching wrestling, right? If a Whippeal kid is wrestling somebody, like even I don't even know this kid, or I might not even like know like his like circle or his group, but he's a Whippeal kid, I'm rooting for him. Then on the outside of that, I'm like, oh, he's a PA kid. I'm rooting for him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And this is where level two. So I'm going to jump right into my level two and three because there's so much overlap on level two and three here. And this is why. So that's the general rule of thumb. Boom.
Right.
Are you from where I'm from?
Right.
Okay. Because being from where I'm from, in a way, to me, feels like we're on the same team.
Right.
You know, like not like an actual team, but
Yeah.
like you know what I mean.
Yeah,
like,
you're just like, yeah, you just.
it's like
you
at the
feel-
Olympics, dude. I'm
Right.
rooting USA, right? Like you know what I mean. All right, so now we're at like a national level. PA,
Yeah,
PA,
yeah.
you know, a state level. Let's go Whippeal, right?
See,
You know what
I was like about to disagree with you on that, and then because I was thinking about fighters, and I had like some very specific things in mind. But yeah, dude, that also makes total sense. I don't know if it'd be exactly my number two. Here's what I was thinking. Basically, I was like, okay, I'm thinking about MMA, right? Because wrestling, I'm like, oh yeah, if someone's from PA, like I'm probably gonna root for them because I probably don't know a whole lot else about
Yeah.
them, right? And I started thinking about like fighters and stuff, and I was like, okay, if a fighter's from Pittsburgh, I was like, oh yeah, I'm probably gonna root for them. Then I was thinking, I was like, I probably know them too, right?
You probably know them, but maybe it's like a jiu-jitsu guy. you
Right.
know,
But then I started
competing.
thinking about like PA, and I was like, man, if there was like a little hammer dude wrestler from PA fighting a tall, lanky striker dude from like somewhere else, and I don't know that PA guy, I'm still probably going to go for the striker. So that was like a specific example.
Of how they drop the yeah.
Right. But again, it's not like a perfect rule. You know what I mean? Like you said in the
Well,
beginning.
hold on. We don't even know where your body type fits in yet. Is that going to be your level two?
Dude, you've got me questioning a lot of these things. I thought I had this all down. Before we
Because
started recording this.
personal relationship is level one.
Yeah.
So we superseded that. So is your level two now the body, or is it getting pushed down even further?
I think it still is based on region because I'm just imagining there's a fighter from Pittsburgh that for some reason I don't know. If he's fighting, like again, someone who is built like me and fights like me, I'm probably still going for that striker.
Okay, now.
But again, that's one
let's-
very specific example. If I don't know anything else and all things are equal, I'm going with the guy from Pittsburgh.
Right. Okay. Now let's say, now my level three is: are you coached by one of my friends?
And again, even if the other guy is a striker and the guy from PA that I somehow don't know is a hammer wrestler, but he's coached by Isaac, Chris Williams, any of the Pittsburgh guys.
But
I'm
so
going for
that's like those guys though. That's why
You're putting this in a different.
I like maybe it's in the same tier. I'm thinking more like, okay, like what if it's like Bill Algio's guy, right?
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
no, I'm rooting for that.
You know,
guy.
and it's not like you like we're that close with like that, right? You know what I
Right.
mean? It's not like, for example, like if like Zach Esposito's got a wrestler, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm rooting for that wrestler, but it's not like I see them.
Right,
You know what
yeah,
I mean? Whereas like if it's Isaac's guy, you see them.
yeah, that's a
So
good
then
point.
they kind of fall into the personal relationship
I see what you mean.
because you see them. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Whereas, like, I boxed with Bill back in the day.
Yeah.
I'll say hi to him if we're, to kickboxing
Right.
thing or whatever. But,
But like
not-
so like generally you want well for him.
Exactly.
And like his fighter winning is well for him. So you're like, oh, you get by default you
That's
get
a
my
good point.
you get my pick. You
yeah.
know what I mean?
Or like if Aaron Pico's fighting, I'm like, oh, we like Six Gun. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes,
I don't call
yeah.
him every weekend. We're not best
Yeah.
friends, but like,
But yeah, I mean,
That's my guy.
I like the guy. You
Yeah.
know, he's a cool dude. I like good things to happen to him, and
Mm-hmm.
this would be a good thing.
yeah. Man, you got me questioning a lot of these things now. I think you're right. I think I'm with you on that.
I think that I got a good system of rooting for things and people and teams and stuff like that. Yeah, so I would say that that's my level three. And that's why 2 and 3 are like so close together because
Right.
like that's where I would have a real struggle. It's like, okay, is there a kid from, like Latrobe who's wrestling, like one of my friends' kid, like, and I'm like trying to say like, oh, well, like I go Whippeal first. Now I'm wondering. I'm like, I don't know if I don't know that kid.
Yeah, and
You know?
imagine you're friends with someone who lives
So
in
I'm gonna switch my levels. My level 2 is, are you coached by one of my friends or someone that I like, value. You
Right.
know what I mean? So then now that's it. Yeah, that's my level 2 because I would be rooting for them over like someone who's from PA or from the Whippeal or like from my area. Yeah,
Yeah, I think personal connection kind of
Trumps.
trumps all. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So now level 3 then would be like proximity, like you're from my neighborhood type of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And that it's crazy how that does change too the further you go out, because I'm like, all right, if again for some reason I see a fighter from Pittsburgh that I don't personally know and he's fighting someone else, and again all other things being equal, going for that Pittsburgh guy for sure. As soon as we get into PA, it's like, yeah, probably going for that PA guy, and we make it even smaller. If that dude's from my neighborhood, I'm like, bro,
Done deal.
yeah,
Done deal. Yeah.
nothing else matters at that point.
Yeah,
You're my
done,
dude. That's
yeah,
my
done
neighbor.
deal. The crazy thing is like there are hard lines for me. Like for example, I'm like, all right, I'm going for the PA guy, right? And then like PA borders Maryland, and like I immediately at that line, I stop.
Stop caring.
Yeah, I'm just like, yeah, now like you could be Maryland versus
California.
Arkansas, California.
It's the same.
Completely no different, and it's just a line that you can't physically see, right? Like, you know what I mean?
That's
Like,
hilarious.
yeah, it's just like, oh, you live across. Like, I don't even know how. Like, there could be a house here and a house here,
Yeah.
but that line there would be like, nope.
Yup.
Yeah, it's a done deal.
Oh, dude, that's interesting.
Yeah.
All right, so that's your. So your one is if you know them personally. Your
Yeah.
two is if you have like a friend of a friend type connection.
Yeah, a friend of a friend that connect.
then-
Like I'm like you like your coach is like a friend of mine.
Right. Yeah. Or even acquaintance or whatever.
Yeah.
And then which I'm honestly 1 and 2 are basically
They're pretty close.
yeah similar.
Well, I think the one, like I personally know you.
Right,
Like, I
yeah.
actually know you. Like I will speak to you.
Versus a step removed. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then your 3 is then proximity.
3 is like proximity and location.
And see, that's funny. That I love how you have that hard cutoff, because for me, it's more like a radiating thing. You know what I mean? Like if someone's from like Ohio, but they're from like
So that's the thing. So like I also like if you're from like Youngstown, like then I'm probably gonna root for. Oh, he's from Youngstown. Okay,
Right.
because like like that covers me because like my wife is
Right,
from
yeah.
Youngstown, so I have like Youngstown ties.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And then it's like, but like other than that, it's just like, yeah, dude, like you're the same. You could be a mile away or 100 miles away, 1,000 miles away.
It's all the same.
Fair game. Fight each other. I don't care.
All right. So then, what would your number 4 be then?
Number 4 would be team.
Oh, another good one.
Yeah. So like, you know what I mean? Like in MMA, it's a little hard. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, and then it starts to like, I think like the way that you would look at it in MMA is like, you start to be like, well, I'm a fan of, I don't know, like
Are you looking
this
for like an
coach.
affiliation? Oh,
Yeah.
coaches. Okay, something like that.
Oh,
So-
okay, team. Man, I'm drawing a
well,
blank.
maybe-
Okay, you fight out of Nick Catone's gym. Okay, I'm a fan of you
Right.
because you're like like your coach, right?
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't really know him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or like
Well,
very
so
well.
that kind of goes back to one of your other levels, but I think in some ways, but also I think our gym is kind of a good, like, example of this. Is like we were a part of the Henzo Gracie team, right?
Right.
And like there's different levels of affiliation even with that. Like you have Henzo's, like main, and then like his main academies, right?
Yeah.
And then you have gyms that are like a Henzo gym, but they're somewhere else. But like that guy got a black belt from Henzo. Like there's a direct connection. And then you
Right.
have gyms that are like kind of affiliates, like maybe a guy who came up in that.
Who came under, like, for example, the way that most people here probably would understand it is like, all right, like Warren got his black belt from Henzo, direct connection.
Mm-hmm.
I got my black belt from Warren. I'm a step removed.
Right.
I don't expect, like, if I like had my own thing going, right? Like, let's say like I moved to
Or how about Lance?
Lance.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Lance does have his own thing. going.
Right.
Okay. So yeah, and he got his black belt from Warren, right? Like, like I don't know, like, like.
But I still feel a connection with Lance's gym.
Oh, I
You
mean,
know what I mean?
wait, me personally, I feel a super deep.
Well, I
connection
know, but
with Lance's gym.
how about this? When we
But
were,
if I was like, a Matt Serra black belt, I probably wouldn't feel much of a connection to Lance's gym.
Right, but if you were at the same, imagine you guys were at like the same like event and you both have that Henzo lion, like you're probably gonna still be friendly.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
For example, when
This
we
is
were
true.
at what was it, Art of Scrap in Indiana for one of Britt's fights, the Henzo Gracie, I want to say Henzo Nashville guys were there. Maybe not Nashville. Maybe it
No,
was.
I would have known them.
I
Dude,
forget who it
I'm
was.
not.
It might have been
I'm not recalling this at all.
It was just me. I went to the I went to the cage with Britt so she could like feel it out. And there was a guy with a Henzo lion on a shirt there, and he and I start talking. And maybe it was, now I feel like a bad person for forgetting. Maybe it was like North Carolina. I forget. It doesn't
Okay.
really matter. But he was a Henzo guy, and instant connection. We start getting along. He's like, dude, if you're ever in the area, come through. I'm like, dude, same. And just like you have a connection. You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean? And so yeah, like I think that that's a good example of like a team within MMA.
Right.
Whereas like I don't personally know those guys, but again, if they walk through the gym, they're like, "Hey, bro, like I saw you at this fight, like I'm treating them like family. Come on in,
Right. So
let's
team.
train."
Yeah,
Exactly.
team. Okay. Now that happens to be our team, but also it could be other teams too. Like like I'm generally a fan of Trevor Whitman.
Oh, yeah.
And I've never met him.
Right.
Never met him. Don't know him. Just a fan of him as someone would be a fan of the New York Yankees type
Right,
thing. Like you know
right.
what I mean. Like I have no connection to him at all. But I'm generally a fan of him.
I agree.
So like if it's one of his fighters fighting somebody who doesn't meet the criteria above this, I'm probably gonna root for that fighter.
Yeah. That's I like. Man, as
that's my
always,
level 4.
You have a very
Now, here goes what I think, though. I think these top levels aren't very fun. Because, like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's just stuff that's out of your control. It doesn't really show your personality. It's just kind of
Right,
like
right, yeah,
It's
yeah.
just basically proximity in different ways.
it's like this. It's like, okay, like, it's like your siblings. They're like your siblings. You don't get to choose them. All right? Now we're going to get into an area of friendship, right? Like, I like, if I don't like you, I don't have to be friends with you.
Right? Yeah.
Right? I choose these.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's what we're getting into. Once we get to level 5 for me, now we're getting into like, okay, do I like to watch you? Right?
Yes.
And there are very much certain people who I am excited to watch.
And see, I think this is where the way you're describing this has a lot of overlap with what I was saying initially about style and like
So I
body
feel like
type.
you were starting past like the obvious personal connections, but I wanted to
I didn't even
define.
think about that.
I wanted to define the personal connections because that like literally, like I'm going to use wrestling as the example. I go through this, right? And there's some times where, like, for example, there's a wrestler for Virginia Tech, Bryce Andonian. I love to watch Bryce Andonian wrestle. I think he's like so fun to watch. He's so cool. He goes big. His matches are always exciting. I like the way he moves, the way he attacks things. Like, huge Bryce Andonian fan, right? When they wrestle Pitt, he can go fuck himself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But dude, like I love that. I would sit down and just watch a Bryce Andonian match one after another, like just archive. But you going against like one of the homies, like beat it, dude.
Yeah.
Kick rocks.
Dude, and I didn't think about that either, but like that makes total sense because like here's a good example, right? Let's look at Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva's been my favorite UFC fighter pretty much forever, right?
Yeah.
Like he started coming up like right when I got into MMA, and like I was a big Pride fan. He came from Pride. I'm a big fan of skinny strikers. He's a skinny striker. I'm a big fan of guys who are maybe a little overly aggressive and maybe put themselves in bad positions sometimes. I'm not saying I do that, but and he's not really a good wrestler, but sometimes he'll end up on his back, but he's got good jiu-jitsu, and he's just like more aggressive than like positionally minded,
Yeah,
same with, like,
yeah, I
Carlos
got you.
Condit. You get it, right? Let's say that like you were like, hey, I'm coming out of retirement, or like Dempsey's coming out of retirement fighting Anderson Silva. Sorry, Silva, not a fan
Yeah.
of you today, brother.
Personal connection.
Yeah.
Right? Personal
Yeah.
connection. Yeah. So yeah, that's where I'm at with that. And like after that, like
Well, hold on. To talk about like what you were talking about with your level, what it would be 4 or 5.
5.
I think it's not exactly the same thing, but kind of overlaps. I generally like to watch, and I think that's why I explained it this way. Guys who are, again, like me, long, skinny strikers who are maybe a little overly aggressive at times. Again, like my favorite fighters are generally, I think, Anderson Silva, Carlos Condit, Nick Diaz.
Yeah.
You know, like it's dudes who are built like me, generally same size. Yeah,
they play your style. I would say one that I pretty much root for all the time, who is not my style, would be like Dustin Poirier. You know what I mean? Like, huge fan. Like, probably like if I could pick who the lightweight champion is right now, I'd be like, oh, Dustin, right? Like that. He's probably my favorite lightweight fighter.
but you know what?
But
Stylistically, you guys aren't.
I wrestle.
Big picture, you guys are kind of, different, but like also you have a fair amount of similarities.
Yeah.
You guys are built similarly, right?
Yeah.
Both southpaw.
Both right-handed southpaws.
Yep. Both primarily boxing based in your striking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, obviously, if we look at overall strategy, he wants to keep things standing. You want to take things down.
So I guess we do have a lot of similarities, but then you got me, who's an outstanding wrestler. Mm-hmm. And then you got Dustin Poirier, who's actually a world-class fighter.
Both black belts.
Yeah.
Both love the guillotine.
We do love Gillies. Yeah. Yeah, okay, so maybe there's a little bit of that I see in it. But, like, I mean, don't you like Dustin Poirier?
Love Dustin.
Yeah, all right. So, yeah.
But,
He's an easy person to like, I think.
This brings up another bit of criteria here. One of the reasons I really love Dustin?
Why?
I like him personally. I don't know him, but like when I've seen interviews of him, and I like
right, but you don't have a personal relationship with him,
right.
so this is where personality comes in. So
yeah, but like
does personality? So now this is where we're getting. This is it. This is what this is about.
All right.
So, for example, that Bryce Andonian kid, love watching him wrestle. But let's say he's wrestling a kid who I know is like I've seen interviews like Heart of Gold, like blah blah blah, just everything that you want someone to be. Like it's like, oh shit, who do I root for now? Is it the athletic performance and like visual gift that you're getting, or is it the person?
I think I'm going personality.
Oh, I'm going athletic performance.
All right. Who's like a UFC fighter who you're like, yeah, I bet you're like a good dude?
Well, I feel like Dustin's a good dude.
Let's not use Dustin just to get away from him as an example.
I don't know. Do you have any?
Someone who I think is probably a good dude. I think Gaethje's probably a really good
dude. Yeah,
dude.
Gaethje's a good dude.
I heard that he...
But I'm still rooting for Dustin Poirier.
Okay, but forget Dustin right now.
Oh, okay.
Gaethje, he seems like a good dude, right? I saw some article about him, like, going to some lunch and, like, paying off kids, like, or going to some school and paying off, like, their, like past
outstanding
due,
lunches,
lunch. Yeah. And I was like, yo. As soon as I read that, I was like, I really, really like that guy. Or, better example, do you remember that video that came out years ago, probably like 10 years ago now, of, I'm blanking on his name now, Roger Huerta.
Oh, when he knocked out that linebacker.
Yeah, so there's a video from way back in the day.
In Austin at Texas University.
Where some giant football player just like this girl can't even see him, tiny little girl, and he just fucking cracks her and knocks this girl out. And he's huge. And Roger Huerta, who's not huge, he's like a regular size dude.
So he's probably like my size.
Yeah.
Probably a little smaller.
Yeah, I was going to say, probably not your size.
Yeah.
He just runs out of nowhere, and he wrecks this dude, right?
Dude, he doesn't like just wreck him, like he calls him out and gives him the fair one.
Yeah,
yeah.
He doesn't
like sneak him.
Oh yeah, like if I saw this happen and I was gonna get involved, I'm sneaking that dude for sure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Roger Huerta comes out, like
they pull it in the middle of the street,
him, shirt off, and like the camera like gets shaky and runs away for a second. The dude runs away from Roger. Roger chases him down, and the next thing you see is that dude unconscious and Roger stomping on his head.
Yeah.
Allegedly, I think we need to say that for legal things. Probably not anymore, but
he's in one. He fought in one.
Oh, that's right, yeah. But anyways, I saw that, and knowing nothing else about Roger Huerta, I was like, yo, I'm a fan of that dude, right? If I saw him fight a dude who's from Pittsburgh, and again, for some reason, I don't know who this fighter is, I'm going for Roger.
Yo, that's crazy. I'm not, because I'm going to root for the guys from Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Well, shows your allegiances. Pittsburgh,
Again,
beware.
if I don't know that guy, it's just we're just saying, you know, vicinity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, interesting.
I'm glad we found somewhere where we differ, because as soon as you started saying stuff, I was like, forget what I said. I agree with you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. So we differ there. Is there any other what about
Well, hold on.
you don't know people?
Well, hold on. To get back to what you were saying about pleasing style, I think for me, like what makes something a pleasing style is chasing the finish over everything. And I think that's kind of, I sort of talked about that when I said like perhaps it's sometimes overly aggressive. You know what I mean? So like if someone is like, again, just chasing a finish. I'm trying to think of a specific example now. Like going back to Anderson Silva, like throwing flying knees, you know what I mean? Throwing teeps to the head, just throwing with intent to end the fight. You know what I mean? That to me is so much more valuable than someone who maybe, I'm trying to think of a style that I like and respect. This is a bad example too, because it leads to a finish, but like GSP, who's more methodical and less overly aggressive than an Anderson Silva type.
Yeah, he's calculated.
Yeah, exactly. Like I prefer that Silva
Yeah, I can get
wildness over, GSP. What was I saying? Oh, like how that relates to like what you're looking for visually. Does that kind of line up with like what you like?
Yeah, that's like what you like. That's style there.
Yeah.
I would say then also like maybe we work from the bottom up. Like I'm gonna root against you if you're like a bad sport.
Oh, I didn't
Right?
think about this as things that make me root against someone too.
Yeah, like okay, like you'll see some things on like Instagram of like people at weigh-ins just being like complete dicks.
Yeah.
Right? And you're like, dude, I hope you get knocked out. So like I'm
Yeah.
automatically rooting against you.
Right.
Complainers.
And it's not because the other guy is now better. It's because this guy now is
Yes.
less in your mind.
Right. Yeah.
That's a good way to think about it too.
Mid fight and or match and or
Mm-hmm.
game, like people like complaining and begging for calls. Like, oh, he's stalling.
Yeah.
He's this or that. Or like
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, dude, like I just want you to lose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I have a really good example of this where a couple things were at play here. Do you remember Michel Pereira, the dude who's like real crazy? And
Oh,
stuff?
they did the backflip and stuff when he fought Little Timmy from Canada?
What's that kid's name?
Dude, I don't know. We called him Timmy though.
Yeah, I was hoping we didn't say that because it's minorly disrespectful. But I want to say his name is
What's disrespectful about that?
whatever, doesn't matter. But this kid,
It's not like a mean thing to say.
no, you're right.
It
But
was just like he looked like a
it's just not
Timmy.
his real name. I want
Dude, so here goes the thing. The Canadian kid, he's fighting him short notice.
Yeah.
Short notice to get it's in Canada. Short notice UFC debut. Up a weight. He beats him.
Yeah, but hold
He
on,
beats
I
him.
want to talk about.
But we
how-
were all just rooting for him.
Yeah. Okay. So here's why.
So like we're on his side. I didn't remember his name.
Number one, he came in as a big underdog and
Huge
took
underdog.
it, short.
Short notice up a weight.
Yep.
Maybe
short
up
notice,
two
a
weight. No, I mean
It was only one.
but he was kind of chubby looking. He might- whatever. We're not
whatever.
going to get it. I'm not going to get it.
but-
What if his name was Tim
It wasn't. I looked.
and
It
it
up.
wasn't disrespectful at all?
No, I followed him on Instagram.
Oh, there you go. We at least follow you. One of us follows you on Instagram.
Yeah, but so he went up a weight class, short notice. Automatically, that made me like him because I was like, "Yo, that's a tough move right there." Like he's shooting his shot to get into the UFC. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And he's fighting Michel Pereira, right? And I don't really know a whole lot about them at the time, so I'm like, "Oh, I want this kid to win." They were showing some highlights of Michel. I was like, "Oh man, he's really exciting." That kind of evened it out for me, right? So then Michel Pereira does this whole little backflip pass thing, which I hated, right? Well, it was in addition to the fact that he did a lot of other stuff that was just for show, but it didn't increase his likelihood of finishing the fight.
Right. Yeah.
And I was just like, dude, you're just showing off, and you're not like, and not for good reason. It's not like you're a beast, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you're just showing off to show off. And then when he hit that backflip pass, I was like, dude, I hate you for that. Like, one, it's not doing anything good to pass, right? Like, good people probably won't get passed by that.
Yeah.
Two, what happens if you stomp on that guy's head, which he has done in previous or fights that occurred after that, right? He did that to Nico Price, I
Subsequent,
believe.
yeah.
Subsequent fights. And it's just like, dude, that's just like a blatant disregard for the rules. No respect. I thought that was poor sportsmanship in my mind. And he like did all this fancy stuff and then gassed out. And then our boy
Timmy, yo.
Timmy came
it
back
back.
and put it on him for the next 2 rounds.
Yeah, it was sick.
Boy, were we rooting for Timmy.
Dude, we were heavy rooting for Timmy.
Heavy. And the
Yeah.
fact that he won, dude, like again, that fight.
And that wasn't necessarily, so first off, all credit to Timmy for like coming in short notice, up a weight, and
In
carrying that
shape,
cardio.
toughness.
Yeah, and being tough
Yeah.
as hell. All credit, but like the main point of the story there was we started to root against.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because if Pereira was just like being like cool, but like doing like cool stuff like Anderson Silva style, and maybe a little bit of like, Anderson Silva style like showmanship, but it wasn't taking away from it and doing it in a way that I thought was disrespectful and stuff, that might have kept things relatively even for me. But like you were saying, that made me dislike him.
That was a good one.
so much. And I still dislike him. Like when I see him like get matched up against someone else, I'm like, yeah, I hope he loses.
Yeah. And I still like Timmy.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah. Fan for life.
Agreed.
Yeah. Timmy, you're on like level like 3.
Oh,
I almost feel like I know you.
Yeah. Dude,
Right.
and also he overcame more adversity. He got a bad neck injury from a car crash, I believe. Came back and fought again.
Really?
Yeah. I believe
All right.
he's been cut from the
Here goes
UFC,
what
but-
I'm going to do. I'm going to learn his name. Out of respect.
Yeah,
for
I got to
Timmy.
find this.
All right.
No,
Okay.
but okay, but getting back onto things that make you dislike someone. So, like you were saying, bad sportsmanship, stuff like that.
Like at weigh-ins?
yeah, especially if it happens before the fight.
Like
Now,
at weigh-ins, I'm like, dude, like, what are you doing?
just be cool.
Like, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Like, no one's getting intimidated by you, and if anything, the only thing you're going to do is potentially push this person to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And now the fight's off. You know what I mean? Like, there's things that you could do to me at weigh-ins where I'm like, fuck it, neither of us are getting paid now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like, what is the what is the consequence, right? It's like, oh, now the fight's off and you didn't get paid. Okay, well, if I'm willing to pay 10 grand to hit you, then that's what it is. You know what I mean? Just like crazy disrespectful things that are happening there, and yeah, it's just like stupid.
Yeah.
And then you look like an idiot after.
Yeah.
But typically you get no harm, no foul because the other person's such a good sport that they don't
Right.
like do anything demeaning to you post fight.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, dude, okay, let me ask you about this. Do you like it when people keep that same energy? Like, they dislike each other, and then after the fight, he's like, yeah, I still don't like you.
I don't always. I prefer. I like
it's
it when
situational.
It's very situational. I like it whenever people are good sports after the fight.
So, okay.
That's what I like the most, regardless of what happened. Almost regardless of what happened before the fight.
I agree.
But there are some things that can happen before the fight that override that.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so here were the examples I was going to use. I remember Rampage and Rashad, and I don't even remember who won that fight, to be honest with you. But they obviously didn't like each other beforehand. And I remember afterwards in the post-fight interviews, whoever lost it, they asked him a question. He was like, yeah, he did X, Y, and Z well. And like, I respect his skills. Still don't think, we like each other personally, but like, blah, blah, blah. But it was like matter of fact about it and like not like douchey about it. You know
That's
what I mean?
fine.
And I was like, oh, I kind of like that he kept that same energy, even though.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's just being honest.
Now, here's an example where I didn't like it. Do you remember? I want to say it was Misha Tate and Ronda Rousey, and Ronda refused to shake her hand.
Yeah.
Was it Misha?
Yeah, that sounds right.
And I believe Ronda won, right?
Oh yeah, she never lost to Misha.
Yeah, and she still refused to shake her hand. I was like, dude, just shake her hand. Even if you don't like her, just shake her hand. You know what I mean? Like, don't be like that disrespectful. You know? And like that to me was like past where I was like, don't like Ronda anymore.
Yeah.
Not that I was a huge fan in the first place, but
Yeah, I wasn't. I was a fan of just like what she was doing for the sport.
Yes.
But I wasn't a huge fan of hers. And honestly, when everybody started to hate her, it made me kind of a fan of hers because like I was like, I feel bad.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. It was disproportionate in both ways, right? So like when the Ronda train was going, right? Which again, like if you're a young fighter, you can't understand this, but like she just took over the MMA world.
Yeah, they were talking about like she would be the men's bantamweight champ.
Right, yeah. And like just wild stuff. And also like when you know what you're looking at, like they were like, she's got incredible boxing. And it's like looking back on it, obviously 2020, but in the moment I knew. I was like, yeah, dude, her boxing was like,
Yeah.
it's not, it's not what people are talking about. And so because people were so into her, I was kind of like, nah, dude, like, you guys got it wrong here. But then it completely swung the other way. She started losing and, still talking crazy. And there was just a ton of Ronda hate. Like, it was a massive overcorrection. And I think you're right, is like what people think of someone. This might be its own criteria, is what other people think about someone. If it's accurate or inaccurate, I think is kind of like a different thing.
Oh, okay. Fan bases.
Yes.
I can hate your fan base.
Yeah.
Right? Because certain fan bases are just straight up
Annoying.
Case in point, dude, Penn State wrestling. Dude, Penn State wrestling, love them.
Yes.
I love the wrestlers. I love to watch them wrestle. Up and down the lineup. They are tremendous to watch wrestle. Big fan.
Big fan
right?
of Coach.
Coaches. Huge fan of the coaches.
Yep.
Kale, Casey, Cody, Jake Varner running the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club. Jimmy Kennedy's on staff now. Like, big fan of the coaches, right? The fans. Like, I was at the Penn State Nebraska match, and I'm there to root for Penn State. Dude, I might as well painted myself red. Like, we're 2 matches in. I'm like, you guys are complaining for, like, they want all these calls. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. There's this roll. It's called a drop down roll. So if you're on top and you grab onto the ankle, you have 5 seconds to climb back up, right? So a Penn State wrestler like drops to the ankle to avoid giving up the escape, and they're counting 1, 2, 3, and people are yelling, "What are you counting for? What are you counting for? This guy doesn't know what he's doing." And I'm like, wow, like, you're so brave to like be so incredibly wrong and pronounce it to the world. Right? You know what I mean? So sometimes I'm just like, it almost makes me like, man, I hope you lose.
And I agree with you, and I think that my opinion about this particular subject is it means a lot, because I went to Penn State, and I'm a massive Cale Sanderson fan, to the point that I boxed for Penn State in his wrestling shoes, right? Like, again, like, I don't want to act like I'm the biggest wrestling fan in the world, but like, I'm a fan of his, and out of respect for him, I wore those when I was boxing. And I also agree with you, in not just wrestling, most sports, I think the Penn State fan base is generally a little obnoxious.
Yeah.
And I'm a Penn State dude.
There was I might misquote this because I didn't commit it to memory all that crazy, and it's been a while. But there was something that Cale said. They were playing music at the Penn State matches, like during the matches, right? It was like a new thing that they'd hadn't done in the past, and people complained about it. And Cale was like, "Well, we wouldn't have to do it if you were better." Like, and I was like, bars. Like, I was like, damn.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, something along those lines. So yeah, just basically a way of like, like, and I know like I'm not super deep in to baseball, but I know a lot of people feel that way about like the Yankees fans and like, stuff like that. And then there's also rivalries and things like that. But yeah, if your fans can make me hate you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Also, hold on, kind of to get back to another thing. I think when someone's overrated, that kind of bothers me too. So like, even if someone's good, but they're overrated. So for example, I'm not sure I still feel this way about him, but like Paddy Pimblett or even Conor McGregor, for a more famous example, right? Like, those are both guys whose popularity and hype outweighs their skills. Right? And I'm not saying they're not skilled guys, right? Especially Conor, right? Conor is legitimately like, one of the greats, you know what I mean? But like, I wouldn't put him in like a top, probably 10 even, all time, right?
I probably would.
Maybe I would. Let's put it this way. I wouldn't put him in a top 5.
Okay.
And yet there are people who act like, of course he's in the top 5, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and that kind of like makes you like, I'm not sure I really like that guy so much. You know.
So
what
like,
I mean?
What's the one dude? Man, I don't know how to say his name. Chimaev.
Yeah. Boris.
Huh?
This is his nickname. Boris means wolf.
His
Hamzat Chimaev.
Yeah. Okay, so here goes what I don't like about him, is people act like this dude can like wrestle with Bo Nickel.
Yeah.
Right? And like, this is a fan base thing. So first off, there's also some things about him personality wise that I don't like. But it's like, bro, you get smoked in a wrestling match, right? Like like you're a decent wrestler for MMA. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, okay, let me rephrase. You're a really good wrestler for MMA.
Yeah.
But wrestling for wrestling is completely different. You're gonna get smoked, bro. You're gonna get tacked.
Dude, people talk about him doing like international stuff. Who do you wrestle for?
Sweden.
Someone name me. Who are these great Swedish wrestlers?
Yeah, yeah. How did he do at Worlds? If he was Swedish national champ, you know what happens when you're the national champ? You represent your country at the World Championships. How did he do at Worlds? Bo Nickel's a world champion. How did he do at Worlds? I don't know. Yeah, but like things like that, like it's just like completely like crazy irritating. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, like Habib would beat Jordan Burroughs, right?
Yeah.
And like DC's like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
Like, come on. You know, or Islam would beat Jordan Burroughs. Islam's like, I would beat Jordan Burroughs. Da, da, da. He's like, come on, dude.
Specialization's so key.
Come on.
That's like when people tell me, they're like, oh, dude, you know, I'm sure like, you know, professional fighters are tough and stuff, but they would lose in a fist fight to a Navy SEAL.
Oh, yeah.
It's like,
nonsense.
really? Try it. Let's
Yeah.
see what happens, you know?
Yeah.
Like that, yeah, that's ridiculous. And also, so that, dude, that's interesting. Like that, and those things can combine. So I'm just thinking about Conor, right? Conor is like, oh, and I hate saying he's overrated because he's really good, right? Like he's really, really good. We even just had like a thing where we were like, oh, I can't even necessarily say he's definitely out of the top 10 ever. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like,
right, yeah.
He is objectively really good. But people act like he's like the best of all time. So that automatically makes me like, I don't know, whatever.
Right.
Also, I don't like him personally. I think he's kind of like a douchebag. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like he punched that old dude at a bar. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like he just like things have added up where I'm like, I don't think you're a good dude. You know what I mean? And like that, like when you combine those things, I'm like, I don't really like you. And you know what's crazy about Conor? Love his style. I
Yeah.
love his style. You know what I mean? He goes for finishes. He is explosive. He is overly aggressive at times. You know what I mean? He's primarily a striker. Like stylistically, I love watching Conor McGregor fight. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things that I can take from his game and like, you know, show our guys. I think I even made a breakdown years ago about like some of his style and stuff. And you know, if you change just those two things about him, I would be a massive fan. Honestly, if you just changed one, if he was a good dude, I would be a massive Conor fan. But because I don't think he's a good person, I'm like, don't really like you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with like that style of thinking. Yeah.
And so much so, even if he fought someone who stylistically was like complete opposite, but I had other things. So for example, let's say he fought Frankie Edgar.
Oh.
Right? I do not love Frankie Edgar. Well, I shouldn't say that. I do love Frankie Edgar's style, but like it's not like my style. You know
Right,
what I
yeah.
mean? Like he's wrestling heavy. He doesn't kick that much. You know what I mean? If he fought Conor, brother, Frankie all day, every day.
Yeah, dude, I'm for sure.
I
rooting
like
for
him as a dude. We have like a team connection. I know people who know him personally. You know, you've trained with him. He's trained with, you know, our guys. Like, and I mean, I don't know him, but he seems like he's a good guy. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, dude, I'm rooting for him all day, every day in that fight.
Yeah,
you
for
know?
sure.
Oh man, dude, this got deeper than I thought. I thought we were gonna blast through this.
Yeah, no, but I think we hit some good subjects, good topics, good
Yeah.
like, you know, we set the ground rules with like, you know, people you personally know. I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to like, you know, like what makes me hate you? Like that wasn't even on the plan, you know? It was just
I didn't
something I
even think
thought
about
of.
that.
I was like, how do I like I just started thinking about like rooting for things and I'm like, oh yeah, like I hate people.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Hold
and
on,
it's
let's-
not even that I want this person to win. I just want you to lose.
Right. Let's dive into that one more time though. Are there any other factors there? So being overrated, we discussed, being like a bad dude, doing things that were, you know, like you know, we don't think show great sportsmanship. Is there anything else that makes you dislike someone?
Like we said, fan bases.
How about this? Because again, this isn't like a positive thing for the other guy. This is just a negative thing for someone. If I really dislike someone's style, I'm like, dude, like if someone's not really trying to, like they're actively stalling and they're not trying to get finishes and they're, you know, just like not exciting in any way, I might start rooting against that guy.
Yeah. I definitely could see that. Yeah.
I can't think of anything else though that would be negative points for me.
Yeah. No, that I think that pretty much wraps it up for me. I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe if they beat well, no, actually, if they beat someone I know, then I want them to win.
Yeah, because you want them to do good. Because it's good for the person that they beat.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean,
That's
I
all I
think that
got.
wraps it up.
I agree.
All right, that was a spirited episode of
Yeah.
Who Do You Root For here on Listen to Your Coaches. So, maybe drop down any other criteria that maybe we didn't think of. Leave it in the comments, and we may or may not, address it depending on if we read the comments. All right, we'll see you guys next time.